It's Grace Redman. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Real Talk, where I get to have real life, raw conversations with incredible people from my circles and communities who've overcome challenges and created amazing. Today, my incredible guest is Brenda Reynolds. Brenda is a trusted organizational and leadership consultant, executive coach, award-winning author, and TEDx speaker. She specializes in guiding leaders and organizations through their now what moments, helping them lead with confidence, navigate change with clarity, and build unshakable resilience. She's partnered with respected global organizations, including Goldman Sachs, The Body Shop, QVC, and Villanova University, supporting leaders across corporate, nonprofit, and academic environments through periods of transition and growth. Brenda is also the author of TBD, To Be Determined, Leading with Clarity and Confidence in Uncertain Times, and the Five Frogs Transformation Journal. In addition, her TEDx talk, Navigating Transition Fog, speaks directly to leaders standing to the edge of what's next. And please help me welcome Brenda to the show today.
Hello,
Hi, Brenda.
Yes, hi. Good to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. I know it's early in the new year and I was like, let's just hit the ground running, and you're down for it. So I appreciate you.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've got that whole uncertain what's next in 2026 ahead of us. So the timing
For sure. For sure. And that's why, where I'm going to take it, right?
Well, I don't know. I didn't, but maybe I do now.
Again, we've, as a collective, I believe, and we've talked about this, we've faced so much uncertainty over the last, 5 years. We're going into the sixth year of uncertainty and what you call fog. And, that is really your zone of genius, helping people transition through fog, transition through or navigate uncertainty. And you talk about transition fog. What is your definition of transition fog?
Transition fog happens when we can't see too far forward. And where not only is our view obscured, but we have a whole bunch of emotions that are starting to churn up, whether it's anxiety or fear or worry. So they make for that perfect foggy situation.
I can relate to that. So I call that sometimes brain fog.
It's fog of all kinds. And later we'll tell you what it actually stands for. But when we're in it, it stands for nothing but, I'm foggy.
How can we move through that fog?
Well, first of all, let me be the first to say, quote unquote, yes, I'm an expert on this. And that does not mean the fog does not find me. And it does not mean that it's easy, even when you intellectually know what to do in the fog. It does mean, though, that you start to understand some of the things you can do. And the only things you can do in the fog that may not clear it quickly, but are progress, because, we can't go around the fog. There just isn't a shortcut. We have to go through it. So one of the things that I especially lean on, and there are a million tips I have, but one of them is easier said than done, but sitting on your low beams. So in the fog, if you're driving on a foggy country road and you're in a hurry to get to your destination, our instinct is to turn on the high beams. Somehow we think that's going to help us, but it just obscures our view more. And instead, it's the low beams that illuminate one 350-foot stretch at a time that get us from where we are to where we need to be. But we can't see the next stretch until we've navigated the one in front of us. And so I literally will say to myself when in the fog out loud, low beams, Brenda, low beams, which is just, what are my next right things? And it may just be one step, 2 steps, 3 steps. That's it. That's all the farther I can see.
Oh, I love that, Brenda. And it really affirms, what I've been, speaking to myself. Because as I was reflecting over the last year, I feel like I've had the high beams on the entire time. And I realized okay, you got to step back. And so you basically just, thank you so much, affirm, put the high beams on, take one step at a time. And then that's how I gained the clarity by doing that.
Yeah. And Grace, I'll be honest with you. This is one of the first times ever. Normally at the end of the year, I'm looking back on the year and I'm looking forward to the new year. And I'm doing all this assessment. 2025 is a challenge. And I know I'm not alone in that.
Not at all.
To the point where I said, do I really want to revisit that? I can grab some learning from it, but that I'm not going to do a deep dive on it. And when it came to 2026, I really have been taking my time with it because what I'm clear about is I can't see 2026 yet. I don't even know what that's going to look like because these last 5 years we've been living in, if nothing, have shown us that we can't predict the future. So not to say we don't want to have goals and aspirations, but I'm really being kind and graceful with myself to say, if by the end of the first quarter, I can have a clearer view of the year, that's all that matters. I'm not putting a pressure on myself.
Oh, we speak the same language. Yes, mic drop. And I'm with you on that. And also, I'm kind of stepping back and being, not that I wasn't intentional, but I feel like I was intentional with some pressure because that's what I've been used to. Right. And even though I'll go back and forth, ease and grace, and then I, go back to the grind because I don't mind the hustle, but it's creating it in a way that's intentional and coming from a place of certainty as opposed to fear. So I believe for myself, in my experience, I unconsciously slipped into fear the last couple of years without realizing it. And now the way that I am choosing to move forward is a place of faith in my capability, faith in the universe, faith that I've overcome so many challenges already. And that feels so much lighter to me, right? I don't think I felt this light in a long time.
I love that. And what you're highlighting, Grace, is that you said faith, which is absolutely a key component. The, kind of the opposite of fear is the energy of fear is the energy of gratitude. And so how can we be grateful and switch that even for the smallest things? And, I learned this one when my youngest son was being born. He was very premature and I went into premature labor and I had to be in the hospital bed for what was looking like 12 weeks, unable to stand up except 5 minutes a day because of gravity impacting me going into labor. 6 weeks in, what are you doing? You're laying in a hospital bed, nothing to do. The only view of the outside world I had was this little window that had a tree in it. And I just watched that tree every day as my window to the world and thought, the way I need to get through this is with gratitude, because it was a time that could have been overridden by fear, and fear was not going to help my unborn baby. So I grabbed my journal and I made myself do my gratitude each day. And sometimes you're really digging deep because you're not leaving a very full life in a hospital room.
I can imagine.
If I could find things to be grateful for in that time, I reminded myself you can always find things to be grateful for, even if it's just the glow of your Christmas tree, which, by the way, I'm looking at because I still have mine up. The world says take it down. I'm like, I don't want to.
Oh, I love that. Girl, I run in my own lane too. I don't listen to
doing that.
I do my own thing.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you sharing the story of being in the hospital. Listen to how crazy this is. This morning, as I'm coming into the office, I connect with a family member and she says, "Oh, well, back to the hustle and grind." I said, "You know what? We can be so grateful that I'm able to get in the car, drive to the office, that I have an office, that I can, because I know so many people in my life right now that are navigating some really scary health crises. Like they're in the hospital and they're not able to get back into their hustle and grind." And she said, "You're right." And I can't believe you just shared that. So that's exactly what I, talked about this morning. And I'm guilty too. Like some mornings I wake up and I'm in a funk. I'm like, what is wrong? Like you have nothing to be in a funk about. And I go directly to the gratitudes and it shifts my state.
I've even started saying it out loud throughout the day.
I love that.
Whatever happens, I'll just I'm kind of creating a habit where I'm worried I'm going to start doing it in front of people and they're going to think I'm a little crazy, but something will happen and I'll just go, thank you, thank you, thank you, for whatever it is, because, last weekend my refrigerator was empty. It had no food in it. I finally grocery shopped. And so having nothing and then getting it filled up makes you grateful to be able to even open the refrigerator. And I've been to South Africa where people don't know where their next meal is coming from.
Right,
Grateful
exactly.
that I have a refrigerator, that I can open that refrigerator, that I can eat healthy food, and that I'm not in fear over food deprivation.
Yes, all of that. And, there was a moment where I felt like, in the past where, okay, gratitude is silly. I'm not going to even share about gratitude. However, I feel like it's key. It's key to managing our state. And some people are like, well, then, that's toxic positivity. Can you talk to us about like how gratitude doesn't fall under toxic positivity, and what does toxic positivity mean to you?
We are on the same wavelength. I was just going to bring that topic up, Grace, because the toxic positivity and the Pollyanna thinking is sort of pie in the sky, not seeing reality and trying to gloss over having to really feel anything by just saying, oh, no, but there are people in the world who have it worse and everything's going to be okay, but doing it in a more glib way. When I'm talking about true gratitude, it's the kind of feeling for anything big or small that can kind of bring this emotion up in you, that when you find yourself really being with that thing that's happening, you feel the emotion of it. I mean, that's the deep gratitude to live with versus just glossing over things to say, but it's okay, it'll be all right. I have met people like that. And number one, I don't buy it. You can tell who's who. Number two, I think they're running away from processing hard things by taking that on as a mask. It's not been processed. And it makes me doubt their authenticity with me in other ways, because if they can't be authentic with themselves, then I'm not sure how authentic they're being with me.
Totally. I appreciate that you brought up the word authentic, and I want to go there with you. That's been such a big word the last few years. Authenticity, be authentic, how you show up. And I've realized that as long as I'm authentic with myself and I'm real with myself, that's authentic. It doesn't mean that I have to come and I have to spill out my entire, life story to you to be authentic. It's just as long as I'm authentic with myself. Because I feel like sometimes people who are, say, be authentic, be vulnerable, sometimes those are people that are praying and kind of want to like hook into you, right? So being discerning isn't not being authentic. You know what I'm saying? I know I'm kind of spinning around.
No, I totally do. And what you're bringing up for me is there's a difference between trauma bonding.
Oh, yes.
Putting your trauma out there so that you can bond with people, and then calling it, well, that's just me being authentic. But they're sharing with you things that aren't yours to know, or it's too soon or not appropriate. Versus, for me, authenticity is, am I congruent with myself? Is what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling and what I'm saying and what I'm doing, are they all in alignment? And if they are, then I'm being authentic with myself. And people can pick up on authenticity in a minute. And fortunately, I think why it's starting to be that it became that buzzword is because it started to be something that people hooked into as, this is your brand. This is what people buy. And we connected it to commerce. When actually, when it first started getting tossed around, I thought, I honestly don't feel I have a big issue with that. I feel like it's been the highest form of compliment that I get from people routinely. And then when the world started hooking into it and making it this this strategic goal, it diminished it, which I think is unfortunate.
Oh, thank you so much. I think you just helped me kind of gain clarity around, authenticity, and you hit it on the nose. In the experiences I've had where I believed it was authentic, it was really trauma bonding.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to write that down because that's huge. Because we're trauma bonding, which is not a bad thing. And then the authenticity, really, like you said, is being aligned with yourself, authentic with yourself. Because when you're authentic with yourself, then you're naturally going to be authentic. And I think you and I are similar this way. I feel like I've always been that way. I mean, I'm sure we've had to wear masks. Who doesn't?
Mm-hmm.
However, I can, I've always been a true person.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I feel like that's why you said it's been a buzzword, and for us, authenticity was natural. And you're right; it's kind of lost its appeal. Definitely for me, it's lost its appeal.
I know, and it truly authentic people don't run around saying they're authentic.
You're right. You're totally right.
And there are people out there right now who are using that to, reel people in. And I'm thinking, well, if you're authentic, that's not something you tell people you are. That's something people feel you are or know that you are. And that's different.
Yes. Well, which brings us to energy. Energy doesn't lie.
Yeah.
And, you've coached, really, high level leaders and executives and worked with, companies like Goldman Sachs. And when you go into these environments to do, the coaching, how does energy, how do we bring energy into that dynamic?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to start where we left off, which was with authenticity. So in the coaching relationship, it's skewed anyway, that the coachee knows less about the coach than the coach knows, because you're spending your time talking about the coachee. But I do give myself space to share with my coaching client, whether it's about some experience I've had in life or in leadership or with another client system or about something with my family, because I once had a coach that coached me for a year and I was paying him big dollars to do it. And I swear, Grace, at the end of that year, it's like, who is this guy? He's like some anomaly to me. I don't even know who he is, what his life is about. Like, I can't fully connect with someone that I don't know. And oddly enough, I've even had people want me to coach them because they are aware of something in my background or my experience that they feel I will understand or that they can trust, and that I won't judge them, because when you don't share anything at all, you come across as potentially perfect. I am not. And people feel much more comfortable talking to some imperfect version of you than they do the glossy, perfect version of you.
And thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you here at Real Talk. If you've been inspired by what you're hearing and you're ready to take things to the next level, I would be honored to work with you. If you're a leader or entrepreneur ready to soar, I offer one-on-one coaching to help you create a business and life of freedom that you are excited to wake up to. And if you're craving something more intimate, I offer a personal VIP day that includes deep dive coaching, a nature walk, and an early dinner. I promise you will leave just feeling rejuvenated. If this speaks to you, please reach out and let's do this together. You can find me at www.graceredman.com. Now, back to the program. Yes. And like you, same thing. I do share with my clients about some personal situations that might align with what they're going through. When I do that, they exhale, like, thank you so much for sharing that. And I said, of course.
Mm-hmm. They absolutely do.
And they don't feel like they're alone. And I think that could be the difference between, like, I had a therapist for 25 years. I knew nothing about her, except I knew she had chronic, pain because she had like these lollipops. But I knew nothing. But all of the coaches that I've worked with over the last 10, 15 years, I know so much about them, and that gives me a deeper connection and makes me a better coach.
Mm-hmm. That's why I think people who are going into the coaching field also want to be mindful of, what training or background or certifications or processes are they following? And what are you being trained to do? Are you being trained to be sterile, or are you being trained to show up with your authentic energy and sort of meet people a little bit where they are? You certainly don't want to walk in with toxic positivity. You don't want to walk in with gloom and doom and meet them in the gloom and the doom, but you want to meet them where they are emotionally and energetically long enough to connect and help raise that up a few notches before the end of the coaching.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Because it's a co-creation. Yeah.
You have to meet people where they are. It's sort of like, it goes back to training I used to do many, many years ago on customer service training, where they would tell you the customer is always right. And so, if the customer's, shouting at you, you go in and say, oh, you use your nice, sweet voice and you try to, be very unruffled, which is not true. Because if I'm a disgruntled customer and I'm acting out and you're meeting me in this space of nicety and toxic positivity, it translates to me as you're not hearing me. Now, you don't want to match their tone and energy, because now you're going to have, a really big fight on your hands. But you want to show urgency. You want to mirror some of those feelings a little bit back to them, so they feel like you're hearing them. And then from there, you meet them just below where they are. And then from there, you can start to ratchet the conversation into a more rational one.
I like how you said they want to be heard. And in my experience, what I'm learning is majority of people in my personal and professional life, coaching clients, staffing clients, family members, just people just want to be heard and seen.
Absolutely.
That's it.
And when they are, they can do great things. It isn't even always that you, as a coach, you have all the wisdom, you know exactly what they should do, you've got the answers. That builds a dependency, and that's coming in with an expert coaching model. For me, it's showing up, meeting them where they are, introducing concepts or experiences very matter-of-factly and in the moment when the teaching opportunity shows up. But mostly, my job is to help them get in touch with the inner wisdom they already have about what's going on and what they want to do and what they're capable of.
Absolutely. I mean, they have all the answers inside of them. Really, we are just a guide and not the expert. And I'm learning, the more I know, the less I know.
Yeah. I think we're giving people the courage to go in and find the answers, or remember that they have them, though, because I think we almost
100%.
need permission to do that and trust it.
Yes. Yes. Sometimes we just need permission. When someone sees us and hears us and, affirms, that gives us the permission. I know for me, in my experience, there's been times like, I know I'm talented and I've worked hard, but still I'm human and I have the imposter syndrome come up, or the doubts. And the moment like I connect with, you or one of my coaches, and we just start bantering back and forth and you see me, it just creates this feeling and energy within me, and I feel like unstoppable.
That's the thing. I just today had a coaching call with a woman who is between jobs. And so she had this job situation and she's evaluating. And I know she really wanted me to tell her whether this job was right for her or not. Like, that's not my job. My job is to say, help you guide yourself through. So we've looked at your values, we've looked at job characteristics, we've looked at your priorities. How does this job match up with all of the work we've already done? Only you know how the idea of it makes you feel. Only you know whether you get this yes feeling inside, or you get this, I don't know, am I just fearful that another job won't come along? And that's why I'm grabbing this one feeling. But I can't know that. Only you can know that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And she
100%.
left her empowered, like, okay,
Yeah.
I've got some processing to do tonight, but you've made me feel better about if it works, it works. And here are the positives. And if it does, if I say no, here are the positive. Either way, it's going to go however it's supposed to go.
And it always does. And I love the questioning, because I think that's what's so powerful about coaching. And I used it in staffing too, when I was, mentoring, professionals on, their next career moves, is asking the questions really helps lead them to their answer. Like, same like you, they're like, well, what do you think? Well, my map of reality is different than yours. So I'm going to be projecting my experience on to you. And so I love how you use, the questions to lead her to her answer.
You raised something important, Grace. I think even when we think about the fog and why we turn our high beams up, we turn our high beams up in part because we don't want to live in the question. And I'm going to say that again, live in the questions. There are whole periods of my life where I have had to remind myself the answer's not ready yet. I have to find comfort being in the discomfort of living in a question that can't be answered yet.
Yes. That's powerful. And what I'm realizing is that our mind needs to create meaning immediately.
Yeah.
To feel safe.
Yeah.
And that's why we struggle so much in the uncertainty and not having answers and wanting closure. In my experience, when in reality, the magic happens in the surrender.
That's why the fog ultimately stands for a freaking opportunity for growth. The growth can't occur if we leap to closure. It's in the unsettled state. It's in the I don't know possibility state where we can get creative, look at options, figure out what's possible. That's where the real benefit of the fog lives. But it's, again, if we go back to people who lose their jobs, if you lose your job and you take the first one that comes along, you didn't even take time to enjoy some time off, to really say, what's important to me now? What matters to me now versus when I took my last job, and really explore other avenues, other professions, other industries. But there's some gold in there if we can just hold the tension of not knowing long enough. And it's easier said than done.
It's so much easier said. It's scary. Again, being a staffing executive and having, my firm as the last 30 years, and seeing so many people out of work the last few years, it's scary for them to stay in the uncertainty because, they've lost their income, or maybe they don't have, their savings. And I know deep in my heart, everything always unfolds. Like, no, none of them that I've known have really gone destitute. However, when you're in that moment, it's very scary. I know a gentleman, like, he had a family to support. He lost his job. It was a year in. It was really affecting him. How do you move through that fog when it is so scary? You have all these responsibilities. How do you get through that?
I think, part of it is whatever anybody's faith is. Faith can be a big part of it, whether it's just faith in yourself, or faith that things are going to work out, or faith that the universe has your back, or faith in a higher power, whatever you call that energetic force that is bigger than you can see. So I think it's in the faith. And then I think it's in the gratitude, because the gratitude noticing and seeing that everything isn't terrible, that there are things that are working out for you, even in the smallest of ways. The more you look for it, the more you see. The more you see, the more you raise your energetic vibration. The more you raise your energetic vibration, the more likely you are to attract some good people and situations to you.
100%. That's I believe that 100%. Doesn't mean go to the toxic positivity. Obviously, feel what we're feeling. Angry, sad, anxious, depressed, whatever it is. And I always, tell my clients and even my candidates or that might be going, just lean into it, and feel what you're feeling, give yourself that time, and then come back to the gratitude and the faith. And it's crazy because I do stay very in close contact with the professionals who are out of work. And as they start doing the gratitude and I have them do these worksheets, the momentum is created and then the opportunities start to come. But there's typically deeper work that needs to be done. It's not just about the job loss. There's other things there.
Sure. And if I had it and I could draw it, there's this diagram I use where it shows you, so let's just keep with the job loss since that's the example we're using, where you spend when that first happens, you're spending most of your time in that raw emotional state, a little bit in the possibility state, and a little bit thinking about the future. As time goes on, you spend a little less time in the raw emotion state, more time in the possibility state, and a little more time in the what could be in the future state. And then as time goes by and we get closer and closer and closer to getting that new job, by the time we do, we're not like, we got this much in our emotions, this much in our possibility state, and this much we're clearly in the future now. We're in our new now, but they coexist. The raw emotions, the excitement. I mean, excitement and fear coexist, so they're in that uncertainty state. So I always call it the what was, what is, which is the uncertainty state, and what will be. And we're living in each of those states simultaneously, but in different amounts as the journey goes on.
I like that.
Yeah.
So we're giving ourselves permission to feel every part of the journey and not tie our identity to any part of it.
Yes, beautifully said. And even it's because it's just not that linear. You may wake up one day, 1 hour, one moment, you're celebrating this possibility, and not that something else happens in the next hour and you're deep in your feelings of like failure. And then, in the next hour, you're back to something different. So we vacillate between them. And I think knowing that, what we want to do is catch ourselves and we start beating ourselves up about that.
Yes.
It's tempting to say, I shouldn't be doing this. Yeah, you should.
And because it's a fog. Opportunity for, freaking opportunity for growth. And what I love, and you reminded me of, and thank you, is, instead of focusing, when we're in uncertainty, instead of focusing on the worst case scenario, the possibilities are endless.
Mm-hmm. I always tell people it's the most scary and exciting place you can be in, because the possibilities, as you said, Grace, are endless. And yet it's scary because you don't know. Totally. I mean, whether it for me is, I always say, you can look at my credentials, but some of the things that have really skilled me up most for the work I do is just having dealt with a lot of uncertainty. And I know you can relate to that, whether it was
totally relate.
Term labors and, divorce and starting a business and fluctuations in the business economy, you name it. It's all of those things that both have terrified us, because in some cases you're on a high wire and you feel like there's no safety net. And it's the stuff that makes us resilient, because the next time we go through a rough patch, we can look back and say, but I navigated this, and this. Yeah. That's where our resilience comes in. And it doesn't mean there won't be more fog, but we're going to navigate it with intention, and we're going to know there will be an end to it, but we're also not going to beat ourselves up while we're in it.
Yes. I love that. And I agree with it. And I know you've navigated many changes and many transitions. One of the changes and transitions got you to where you are today and doing the work you do. Can you share with us how you got into, because you work with some really incredible organizations, you have an incredible TED Talk. How did you get there?
It was very iterative, which I think is what people should if you really listen closely to most people's stories, some people are overnight successes and something really amazing happens to them that changes their life. But I think for most of us, it's just very iterative. So I grew up in a small town. My parents were very young when they had me. I had to learn self-reliance at a young age. So I learned self-reliance. That self-reliance allowed me to make choices about where I wanted to live. Making that choice broadened my perspective on the world. Doing that led me, into all kinds of things, including getting married and having children. And the divorce was the biggest fog that I experienced. And that was also the impetus for me writing the TBD book. I share some personal stories in there, even though it's written with leaders in mind. Really, anyone can read and get what they need to from it. But at that time, I remember being grateful that I had the training and background in change management that I did and psychology that I did. And I thought, gee, it's a shame everyone doesn't have this to help them navigate change. And it was in that moment, many years after my divorce, of course, that I had clarity around, oh, that's the book I should write. So out of my foggy divorce came my first book. And then the way the timing worked out is when my youngest son was 1 year from going to college, and I knew I'd be living alone in my empty nest stage. I didn't want to be a poor, pathetic mom that he left crying on the sofa as he walked out to this exciting chapter of his life. So I began to say, what can I do? Well, that's when I wrote the book, TBD. But in doing that then opened up doors for me to be invited to do a TEDx talk audition. So I did that. They auditioned 300 people. They chose 30. I got, blessed to do that. The most terrifying thing I've ever done. And in doing that, I signed myself up again. Scary, scary, scary. I signed myself up to go to a publicity summit in New York City with 100 producers of podcasts, television shows, and, agents for publishing companies, et cetera. And my book wasn't ready. Everyone else I knew going had their book ready to show these people. I didn't have one. So I asked my graphics people to make 10 little cards with some of the key content in my book and the cards. And I made these little packets that I shared with the producers. And out of that, they said, that should be a product. I'm like, I don't know how to make a product. I never wanted to make a product.
Wow.
So in the fall of 2017, and I started working on all of this the year prior, simultaneously, and I don't recommend this, I published a book, I did a TEDx, I created a product, and the week leading up to my TEDx, I spent by the bedside of my 97-year-old grandmother as she was dying, saw her transition right before I took a stage and talked about uncertainty.
Wow. I just got chills through my whole body.
Yeah. So it was really, none of it was like overly planned. I mean, I was certainly planned and worked on the book, but the other things just sort of showed up as possibilities. And so I think success happens in a very iterative way. You just have to be aware, notice how you're feeling, notice what you're drawn to, notice what is now possible because you're standing on a higher step based on what you've just experienced and done. So that makes more things possible and more things possible. And I mean, in terms of my business, Grace, this is a good thing and a bad thing, to be honest with you. I've never marketed. It's just been word of mouth business referrals of clients. I got into those really cool places through referrals or people I knew, and 32 years strong. That's a great thing. Every time the economy takes a dip, it's not a great thing because everyone tells you. So
I've been feeling that for 2 years.
It's really interesting too, because 2025 was a rocky year for a lot of people. And what I noticed is when you were out networking or talking to people and they say, how's it going? Like everyone goes into their persona like, great, how are you? And I told myself, I'm not doing that. And so when I would say, it's a challenging year.
Yeah, I've said that. It's been challenging and transformative and incredible. It's this and that. For me.
The incredible and transformational, usually you don't feel until it's behind you. You don't always feel it when you're in it. But when I led with that kind of statement, people would literally exhale and go, oh, we can really talk
Yeah.
about real stuff. Oh, yeah, let me tell you what's going on with me. And it was refreshing.
I love that because one time I was on a call with my other colleagues, and I said, it's been challenging, and she goes, "Girl, challenging?" She goes, "Why don't you call it what it is? It's been brutal." I'm like,
Yeah.
uh,
So, I mean, I think we equally share, those times as well as the good times too, to be able to say,
for sure.
yeah, like I see what 2012 was preparing me for, 2025 was challenging. I'm sitting here at the beginning of 2026 with a lot of exciting opportunities in front of me.
Yes.
And I don't know. I don't know which ones are going to hit and which ones aren't, but I'm going to be grateful for whichever ones do because they're all fabulous. They're all with great people, and some of them are with some really cool new client systems that I'm going to get to start working with. So,
I love that. Being in the possibility, the energy of the possibility, the vibration of the possibility. Thank you for reminding me of that today. That's
um,
something that I needed to be reminded of.
I'm sorry, Grace, I just talked over you. You said something about the transformation, like it's both challenging and transformational.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes you don't see the gift of the fog, though, until you're looking in your rearview mirror and you see it in the rearview mirror. And then you go, oh, I would never have wanted to go through that divorce again. I would never have wanted to go through that health scare again. I would never have wanted to go through X again. And boy, I see how it's transformed me. Boy, I see the gift of it. So I think when we're in it, we have to not start looking for the gift right away.
Mm.
We may not know what the gift from this thing is going to be, the latest and greatest thing that put you in the fog until sometime down the road. And that's okay.
Totally. Totally. And yes. And no apologies. I've been talking over you. I get so excited. I'm like, oh, I'm working on that. I'm working on that. I know my gaps. Um, and and that's why with people in my life that are going through challenges, I've learned in the past I'd want to give a solution, and now I'm just saying, hey, you know what, I'm so sorry, like, you're going through it sucks. And people don't want a solution because we want to, like you said, like, we want to feel it because we don't, well, there's a lesson there. They don't want to hear that right now.
No. They don't want to hear that now. They also don't want to hear, the Pollyanna stuff, like, oh, you say this every so often, and then business flourishes. You'll be fine. Like, they don't want you glossing over them either. Or it feels like you're not being seen and heard, which you referenced earlier on.
Right. I want to be very respectful of your time, and I'm so grateful that you joined me. So many amazing nuggets, always. Like, I could be here. You know that I could be here with you all day, right? We've done that before.
Well, we're going to have to make that happen. We are going to have to do like a little retreat getaway where we get to spend days together, for sure.
For sure. What is one last?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. What's one last piece of wisdom that you'd like to leave someone who is going through a fog, through uncertain times, and just can't see the road ahead?
See, I knew what you were going to ask me was what I was about to say. It all works out. What I was going to say is, you and I have been trying to make this podcast happen for a little while, and I think the timing is impeccable. Because at the beginning of a new year where everybody's, talking about the shiny new year, and you perhaps are showing up in the new year not with this clean slate. So this is to the people listening. We're not feeling as high on life as we'd like to. We've just been dealt some blow. We're in uncertainty. I think I would just say, that's okay. That we're tempted to be shamed into thinking we should feel a certain way when uncertain times come our way. But you're going to feel what you're feeling. You're going to land wherever you are. I have talked to so many people who have had challenges show up over the holidays And everybody wants to believe the holidays should be magical and free of uncertainty. But so many of us had illnesses, flus, travel challenges, family issues, end of year pressures, beginning of year expectations, right? So I would say to everyone, give yourself grace. Somehow it always works out. And that sounds very glib, but it does. And I remind myself of that to say, everything is working out in my favor. May not be the way I would want it to work out, but it is and always has for my 100% of my days. Somehow it's worked out to my favor because I'm sitting here today talking to you. And so I have to remember that with each future challenge too.
Oh, amen to that, Brenda. That was beautiful. And it's so true 100% of the time. I appreciate you for joining me. Please share with our audience where they can find you.
Best thing is my website, which is Brenda, the letter K, Reynolds, REYNOLDS.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. So any of those spaces.
And we'll put all of those.
And you can buy any of the books on Amazon. The Five Frogs Transformation Journal was just a recipient of an award last year, which was an unexpected, exciting thing. And so you just never know what's around the corner.
You never know. And thank you so much for sharing with me what's possible. I appreciate you. And for those watching, listening, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we are grateful for you. And please like, share, and subscribe so we can continue to bring you amazing guests like Brenda. And always, if you have questions, always don't hesitate to reach out to, either myself or Brenda. Will definitely get back to you. Brenda, hold on with me. And to everyone else, have a wonderful rest of the day. We appreciate you.